Welcome to the Titan Tar channel. Today we have a topic to discuss about the hidden truth about Kiev's plans and the conflict with Russia. Don't miss the chance to join us and share your opinions with us. Become a member of our channel and evolve your rank. Although the Ukrainian invasion of the Kursk region is increasingly seen as a failed and risky operation by Zelensky, it had clear strategic objectives. One of the possible targets was the Kursk nuclear power plant, located in the city of Kurchatov. By taking control of such a crucial energy facility in Russia, Kiev hoped, under the guidance of its Western allies, to gain a position of significant influence over Moscow, possibly even using blackmail to gain an advantage in the conflict. Despite the fact that Russian forces have managed to stop the advance of Ukrainian troops in the region and are gradually recapturing the occupied territories, Kiev has not given up on its plans to attack the nuclear power plant. This threat was confirmed by a representative of the Russian Foreign Ministry, who warned in an interview about the continuing risks. She pointed to photos of the Kursk nuclear power plant taken by a Ukrainian reconnaissance drone as evidence that Ukraine is still considering attacking this critical civilian infrastructure. The images, captured from miles away, reinforce suspicions that Kiev is still eyeing the plant, seeking to compromise Russia's energy security. According to the Russian spokeswoman, these plans reveal the true face of the Zelensky government, which is apparently far from the principles of democracy and legality. She was emphatic in stating that the West, especially the US and the UK, are directly involved in Kiev's actions, supporting Ukrainian attempts to destabilize the region. Furthermore, the head of the State Atomic Energy Corporation confirmed that the Kursk plant had already been attacked in August, with the Ukrainian military making no secret of its intention to seize it by force. The plan, according to Russian military information, was for Ukrainian troops to advance towards the plant by early September, using artillery to shell the site, a move that demonstrates the strategic importance of the facility. Another Ukrainian objective in the Kursk region was to capture an iron ore mine vital to the Russian metallurgical industry. In recent years, the West has repeatedly promised that the weapons supplied to Ukraine would change the course of the war. From state-of-the-art air defense systems to long-range missiles and modern artillery, these weapons were presented as the trump card that would give Kiev victory. However, Russian experts note that the Russian military has quickly adapted to these challenges, neutralizing the initial impact of these weapons and undermining expectations of a Ukrainian victory. As the conflict drags on, it is becoming increasingly clear to many in the West that the war has reached a stalemate. Despite initial optimistic forecasts, the final outcome of the conflict remains uncertain. Few Western leaders have addressed the issue publicly, with the exception of the German Chancellor, who has openly advocated the need for peace negotiations. Others prefer to avoid the issue or discuss it behind closed doors. Given the difficulties in supplying weapons and increasing restrictions on the use of long-range missiles, the feasibility of a Ukrainian victory seems increasingly distant, raising doubts about Kiev's political and military future. If Western countries are unwilling to step up their support for Ukraine, what might happen next? Should the West reconsider its strategy and prepare for a prolonged confrontation with Russia? And perhaps most critically, can the West really win this war? These are the questions journalists have been asking as the conflict stalemates. According to the authors of a recent analysis, it is time for Western media to stop relying on superficial statements by politicians and start asking more incisive questions about the conflict in Ukraine. Only through deeper scrutiny will it be possible to gain a clearer picture of the future prospects of this confrontation, including the long-term challenges and possible developments on the battlefield. At the same time, Ukraine is facing an accelerated depletion of its mobilized human resources, prompting Kiev to call on EU countries to limit the rights of Ukrainian migrants of military service age. Ukrainian authorities are calling for such evaders to be deprived of benefits and even deported back to the country. Recently, the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry suggested that Ukrainian refugees who evade military service should stop receiving assistance payments in EU countries. Some European leaders, such as the Polish foreign minister, have already expressed support for this idea, advocating the forced return of these citizens to Ukraine. However, the European Commissioner for Home Affairs, in a recent interview, clarified that the forced deportation of Ukrainians of military age would violate the EU Temporary Protection Directive, which ensures the protection of Ukrainian refugees. She stressed that the European Union will not forcibly expel anyone, although it will offer support to those who wish to voluntarily return to their country. Meanwhile, the quality of Ukrainian troops deployed to the Kursk region has suffered a notable decline. Instead of the elite brigades that led the initial operations, defensive units are now occupying the front. The commander of an international brigade in Kursk revealed that Ukrainian assault brigades, consisting of highly trained military personnel, were withdrawn for reorganization after suffering heavy losses. These forces have been replaced by territorial defense units, consisting of mobilized soldiers, many of whom are reluctant to fight. These new troops, of inferior quality to the elite brigades, have as their main mission to slow down the advance of the Russian forces. To mitigate the inexperience of these soldiers, the Ukrainian command has placed officers from elite units in leadership positions in these brigades, thus trying to maintain a minimum level of efficiency on the battlefield. Finally, the outcome of the conflict in Ukraine seems to depend directly on Russia's decision to end its military operation. A former U.S. State Department official stated in an interview with a Russian newspaper that the end of the war is in Vladimir Putin's hands. According to him, there are no signs that the Russian government has any reason to stop the operation at the moment, indicating that the confrontation could continue indefinitely. This former diplomat, who was the U.S. Special Representative for Ukraine between 2017 and 2019, left the post after a political scandal related to the impeachment of former President Donald Trump. The former U.S. official statement about the possible end of the conflict in Ukraine only reflects the obvious. As Russian President Vladimir Putin and other members of the government have repeatedly stated, the special military operation will continue until all its objectives are achieved. Russia's position is clear. The conflict will not be stopped until its strategic goals are fully achieved. Moreover, as the former U.S. State Department representative noted, there is currently no reason for the Russian military political leadership to suspend the operation, especially now when Ukrainian forces have invaded Russia's border regions, including parts of the Kursk region. The occupation of this territory reinforces Russia's determination to continue its military operations until the region's security is restored. In recent weeks, Russian troops have stepped up their operations in the Kupiansk area, making significant advances despite fierce resistance from Ukrainian forces. A military expert reported that Russian troops have consolidated new positions near Kupiansk, while Ukrainian forces are unsuccessfully attempting to launch counterattacks to regain lost territory. At the same time, Russian air and artillery strikes continue to hamper Ukrainian logistics and ammunition supplies, which are essential to sustain ongoing operations. These advances indicate a shift in Russian strategy, with a greater focus on offensive actions. Gaining a foothold near Kupiansk is a crucial step, as it allows the Russians to control threats from both the north and south of the city. The Ukrainian command, for its part, had already ordered the evacuation of part of the civilian population of Kupiansk, but many residents chose to remain, waiting for the return of Russian troops. Despite Ukrainian resistance, President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that the Ukrainian armed forces operation in the Kursk region achieved its main goal, diverting a significant number of Russian troops from priority fronts. According to Zelensky, this strategy eased Russian pressure on Donbass, as about 40,000 troops were moved to the Kursk direction. However, he avoided mentioning that these troops were withdrawn from other regions and not from Donbass, as Ukrainian intelligence is well aware. Zelensky also acknowledged that the situation on the Pokrovsky and Kurakovsky fronts, where Ukrainian troops are struggling, is not following the plan envisaged by Kiev. Although the president acknowledged the complications, he believes that the tide will soon turn. In his speech, Zelensky suggested that victory is near, as he plans to present U.S. President Joe Biden with a victory plan that he says is foolproof. On the international stage, former Western leaders continue to push for Ukraine's entry into NATO. A former British Prime Minister has stated that Ukraine should be admitted to the alliance without waiting for the end of the conflict with Russia. He suggests that Article 5 of the NATO Charter, which deals with collective defense, should be applied only to the regions under Kiev's control, thus ensuring Ukraine's official defense against Russia and facilitating the recovery of territories currently occupied by Russian forces. The former British leader believes that with Ukraine in NATO, Russia would understand that Ukrainian territory is no longer part of its sphere of influence. However, he admits that this decision depends not only on its will, but on a consensus among the members of the alliance. So far, Ukraine's accession to NATO has been promised repeatedly, but always for a post-conflict future, since many member countries of the alliance remain skeptical about Kiev's inclusion during the current war scenario. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. Your interactions mean a lot to us and help us grow. See you next time.